Hi everyone, and welcome to Firebird Spirit, a gathering of compassionate souls from around the world. This is one place where we come together to explore the places where the sacred meets the real in our lives and in the world. One thing I'm really aware of as I am recording this is the number of places in the world engaged in heat waves or heat domes. And, our Mother Earth, Gaia, is needing to rebalance and heal herself as well. So we hope that you are able to remain cool as possible, and above all, hydrated and healthy. And we're glad that you're here today. Whether this is a familiar rhythm for us to be together, or this is your first time here, each of us arrives carrying different stories, don't we? Different questions and different hopes. Yet beneath all those differences, I think, is a shared longing to become a little more aware, a little more awake, a little more whole and healthy and complete, and a little more deeply connected to the sacred presence already at work within us and among us. Special welcome today to those of you who may be watching from outside the States, which I think, as I understand the analytics, is about half or a little over half of our viewership. So we thank you. Thank you for that. Thanks for not just lumping us all in together and thinking that we are all the mess that we see in the news. We are a mess that you see in the news, but some of us are working hard to maintain or reestablish a balance. And that leads me to today's thought in a way, because the world often measures growth by speed and productivity and visible results, doesn't it? The spirit, though, rarely does. The spirit finds that the deepest transformations often happen quietly, beneath the surface, long before they can ever be seen or fully experienced. So as we gather this time, and we enter this time of getting grounded wherever we are, wherever we happen to be watching, your living room, out in the backyard, on a train somewhere, on a bus, maybe on vacation, hopefully in a cool place. But as we enter our time together, perhaps we might simply wonder today, where in our lives is something quietly growing that we have not yet fully recognized? Where in your life might something be growing, just trying to spring up, or you just feel a subtle shift inside you, or you find your mind thinking about something, or a song is going through it that's causing you to be called to a different approach in life? Where in your life, in our lives, is something quietly growing that we have not yet fully recognized? We're going to explore this today. I'm going to share some observations. I'm using part of Christian scripture, the New Testament, in my reflection today. It's from the Gospel according to Matthew. We'll pick up where we left off the last few weeks, talking about seeds and stuff. But I think it's really timely for where we are in humanity's development, because we are on the brink. Things are starting to shift now. I think we're going to see very rapid changes in the next 2 or 3 months, at least. A lot of the old things, old established ways, I think are beginning to dissolve around us, aren't they? Some become more explosive than others, but we're wiping them out. And for those in this country who celebrated the 250th anniversary of our founding, I have to tell you, I feel as if we are on the brink of the third great awakening here, of reclaiming, rebuilding who we are as a nation. The first, of course, was 1776. The second came following our Civil War in the 1860s, 70s. That kind of went way up and then took a deep turn down, if you know American history. But we have a third opportunity, and maybe the third time's the charm, to finally be able to be all those things that we have said we believe in. So think about this. Where in your life is something quietly growing that you may not have yet fully recognized, but you're beginning to sense it? Think about it for a little bit, and then Barb will greet us on the other side as we help not only to center where we are, but we help everyone to come and gather together and center as a group. We'll see you on the other side. Well, as I mentioned earlier, our reading today comes to us from the Gospel according to Matthew, probably written in the 80s. Matthew and Luke in the 80s. The temple in Jerusalem fell and was destroyed in 70. Mark's Gospel was written after that, the first of the Gospels. Matthew's was written, Matthew and Luke, about 10 years after that. The reason that's kind of important is that these Gospels are all written as if they are first-hand accounts happening in real time, but they weren't. They were happening, if we're talking in the 80s, we're talking 50 years or a generation and a half after the crucifixion and resurrection. And a lot of the eyewitnesses, people who may have heard Jesus or seen him in person, were dying off. And so these authors wanted to get the accounts written down. And they probably, not a one of them was written by a disciple, we think now, scholars believe. But they did emerge from the oral traditions that came out of communities that were shepherded by the early disciples. In this case, a community that had been shepherded by Matthew. Now, of all of the Gospels, Matthew's is expressly written for Jewish audience to help them understand through their lens who Jesus was. And so you hear a lot of language there that would be meaningful to a Jewish audience that you don't hear necessarily in Luke or Mark or in John. Each had their own particular audience. It's fascinating. Sometime you might want to sign up for one of our Bible studies to kind of get into that a little more. But I'll be reading today a composite. What we've been doing lately is taking three translations of Scripture, mostly from the Greek, sometimes influenced by the Aramaic or the Hebrew. And different publishers, publish these as translations in the vernacular or with more formal language. So what we've done is to look at the New International Version, the International Children's Version, and a book that's a paraphrase of it called The Message. And we've put them together. We've taken those and we've created our own composites. So the story is absolutely accurate. The language, we hope, has been adapted a little more for 21st century ears. It's the only difference. If you want to follow along with one of your own Bibles, this is Matthew 13, verses 24 through 30. Listen for how the Spirit is speaking to you today. Jesus shared another story. The kingdom of heaven is like someone who planted good seed in a field. But while everyone was asleep, an enemy came and scattered weeds among the wheat before slipping away. As the wheat began to grow and form heads of grain, the weeds appeared as well. The workers came to the farmer and asked, "Didn't you plant good seed? Where did the weeds come in?" "An enemy has done this," the farmer replied. The workers asked, "Should we pull the weeds up?" "No," the farmer answered. "If you pull up the weeds now, you may uproot the wheat as well. Let them grow together until the harvest. Then the harvesters will separate them, gathering the wheat safely into the barn." Here ends this part of the Spirit's message for us today. Now, let's hear the other part of what the Spirit has to say and figure out, wow, what does that mean for us? What if it's already happening? Last week, Darlene invited us to think about the parable of the sower. She reminded us that spiritual growth begins by preparing the soil of our lives, both individually and communally. And seeds can only flourish where the ground is open, receptive, and nourished. Then she shared something from her Baha'i tradition that has stayed with me all week. She said that growth is always a twofold process: the continual growth of the individual soul and the collective growth of society. I love that. Because it's easy to think of spirituality as something private. My journey, my healing, my awakening. Yet, every personal transformation becomes part of something much larger. As each of us grows in compassion or wisdom or courage or love, humanity feels that growth itself. And it grows with us, at least the part of humanity right around us. It grows, it reacts to how we are growing and changing. Perhaps that's why this week's reading feels like such a natural continuation of last week's conversation. Jesus tells yet another story about seeds. Not seeds waiting to be planted this time, but seeds that are already growing. The workers, they notice that the weeds have appeared among the wheat. I can relate. I have a little backyard garden. I hate to weed, and I can see the weeds coming up. Drives me crazy. And their instinct, the worker's instinct, is immediate. Should we pull them up? It's a very human question. We sometimes see something that doesn't belong, and it seems wrong. And our first impulse is to fix it, remove it, separate it, make everything neat and certain again. Control it. But the farmer surprises them. And the farmer says, no. If you pull up the weeds now, you may pull up the wheat as well. So let them grow together until the harvest. For generations, people have asked, who are the weeds? And I wonder if that's the wrong question. Perhaps the deeper invitation is to ask, what kind of growers are we becoming? One thing about weeds, they're never as deeply rooted as the good things you want to grow. Keep that in mind as I continue. There's a place in Paul's letter to the Romans where he writes that all creation is groaning as though in labor, waiting for something new to be born. He reminds us that hope is trusting in what we cannot yet see. That image feels remarkably relevant and prescient to me right now. I have said that about what we're going through in this country and now globally for the last few years. Many of you have heard me talk about that because many of us sense that we are living through a time of profound change. Old systems are being questioned, long-held assumptions are shifting. Around the world, people are reimagining what it means to be human, what it means to belong, and what kind of a future we want to create together. Some days it feels like everything is coming apart, flying apart even. But Paul offers another possibility, another way to envision that, a different lens. What if something new is struggling to be born, he says. Anyone who has witnessed a garden in early spring, at least here in the northern hemisphere, I imagine it's the opposite in the southern, but in early spring knows that growth rarely looks impressive, at least not at first. Spring is messy. Early growth, tiny shoots emerge almost unnoticed, except we're so happy to see green instead of snow. But beneath the surface, the roots are, spreading long before those leaves appear, long before they spring up. Life is already at work, even when very little can be seen. It's true for the babies who grow inside us. We are growing long before we are seen. And perhaps the same is true for humanity. Perhaps we are only at the tiny shoots stage of our growth. We want to think, we're the pinnacle of success, the pinnacle of creation, the pinnacle of humanity's development. Well, we're not. Beneath the surface of our individual lives and beneath the surface of humanity itself, the roots are spreading like crazy. I think we're in a growth spurt right now. They're anchoring us, and they have been anchoring us long before we recognize the changes that are already taking place right now, because growth takes time. Not because love or light are absent, but because love and light work organically, quietly, patiently, from the inside out. And that changes how we live. Instead of asking, how do we make growth happen? Perhaps we begin asking different questions. How do we trust what is already growing? How do we trust what's already growing? Think about your life, think about your world right now, your perceptions of the world. How do we trust what's already growing? How do we recognize the signs of this new life, even when they are very small, infinitesimally small sometimes? How do we engage with that growth in ways that nurture it? The spiritual traditions, whatever they are, they might be yours, maybe not, but spiritual traditions, by and large, have always offered practices that help people to do just that, but they're not the only ways. Personal prayer, reflection, silence, compassion, forgiveness, generosity, gratitude, rest, being in community. Each of these things helps us connect with and nurture the growth that's already taking place. But notice that none of these forces a seed to grow. Each of these practices I named, each one creates the conditions in which growth can flourish. And the same is true for the world around us. Every act of kindness strengthens compassion. Every act of courage makes fear just a little smaller. Every choice to build bridges instead of walls becomes part of humanity's own unfolding story. Perhaps spiritual growth has never been simply about becoming better people. Perhaps it's always been about participating in the ongoing creation of a more compassionate world. Jesus reminds us that we cannot always tell what's growing while the field is still young. Paul reminds us that hope trusts what cannot yet be seen. And Psalm 139, that we drew upon a few minutes ago, quietly assures us that through every season, every uncertainty, every stage of becoming, we are never alone. We are known. We are held, cradled. Love is nearer than our next breath. So, what do we have to do with all the weeds then? Focus on the good growth. The weeds will take care of themselves. With shallow roots, they will shrivel and die, or they will be harvested and thrown out, but we don't have to do that. We have to focus on the good growth. Focus on what is there. Nurture through all of the means that we've talked about. Nurture the good. Help the birthing to proceed by creating the environment to welcome the new growth. And so this week, instead of asking whether enough is changing, perhaps we might simply notice where life is changing? Where is new life already emerging? Within us, among us, and throughout the world. And then with gentle intention, let us trust and recognize and engage with what love is already growing. Amen? Amen. So, as we leave our time together, as we return to the rhythm of everyday life, may we remember that the sacred is nearer than our next breath. It's right here. It's with us always. Love is already at work, growing us and helping us to spot where the good seeds are growing, where things are flourishing. The weeds will take care of themselves because new life is quietly growing. It's being born. So may we go with hearts that trust that process, trust that we're doing the right thing. May we go with eyes that recognize what we need to see and hands that are ready to engage, to help others, to comfort, to bring healing, with what love is already bringing to life within us, among us, and throughout the entire world. You're part of something here. This Firebird movement, it's catching on. And it's global. And it is a global community of hope. We invite you to visit our website, firebirdspirit.org. From there, you can launch into our social media. You can read other things. You can find other videos on and shorts on our YouTube channel. It's kind of the center of our universe, firebirdspirit.org. We hope that you'll check us out there. And may peace go with us now, and hope grow within us. May love continue its quiet work through us. But for now, and until next time, God bless, take care, and bye for now. Be gentle with yourselves. Be gentle with each other. Know that everything will be made clear. Weeds will be identified as weeds, and good wheat will be seen as good wheat, and the time of the harvest is coming, and we don't have to worry about that. It will be what it will be. We're here to spread life and light and love and hope. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Firebird Spirit, a global community of hope where the sacred meets the real. You can find our weekly gathering videos on YouTube at Firebird Spirit Hope. Related reflection articles, resources, and our RSS feed are available at www.firebirdspirit.org. As you journey this next week, may you walk in hope, live with compassion, and continue growing in the Spirit. Until next time, God bless, take care, and bye for now.